your time, and because I know some of you are going to want to get to Parent University with Dr. Kurth, and that's some amazing information as well. I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm Emily Presser, and I am the freshman counselor this year. If you recognize me, yes, I was the 10th through 12th A to E last names-ish for the last, 7 years. And so when the opportunity came about, we love and miss Janae Howard very much. But I kind of felt drawn to come back down to my roots. When I started counseling, I opened South Valley Junior High, back then was what Discovery was called, and did that for 4 years, and then went back over to Heritage, at that time was Liberty Junior High, and worked solely with 8th and 9th graders and loved that age. So when I coached here, I coached that age, so I'm just very excited to kind of come back to that, my roots of counseling maybe. So this is my partner in crime, Gina Johnson. She is the social worker that also works with all of our freshman children, and then our assistant principal is Lisa Fletcher. If you're just coming in, there's some room in this actually stairwell if you want to sit down. And then if you would like, you can stand along the edge. If you just want to walk all the way up the stairs and stand at the top, you can as well. All right, you want to hit it? Hit it. Okay, transition tips. I try to open this up with a little bit of funniness. I have 2 sons. One is 16 and goes to school here, and one is in 8th grade and goes to South Valley. This is our life. So, the very first thing that is a really hard transition piece for kids and parents is stop staying up so late and go to bed because you're going to be so tired in the morning. No, I won't. I'll be fine. Oh my gosh, and then they're dying. Even when they're old and they act like they're old, they're still little babies inside sometimes, so they need sleep. But then when you put them in their room and they have their phone or their TVs or their games, what do sometimes, like my son? Oh, you're playing Fortnite till 2 a.m. Okay, this is not acceptable. No, these are things we have to remove. So YouTube wins out sometimes, or used to, so that transition has been hilarious in my house, right? We went from all summer of screaming and dying because we just lost or got second to running around and doing Fortnite dances because I'm a god, right? So if you could focus on some sleep and help me with that, that would be fantastic. Okay. Do homework every night. What do kids mostly say? Well, I don't have any homework. Okay, so yes, you do. You have homework every night. You may have some notes to study. You may have some concepts to go back over in your class, but you do have something to do every night. Be able to explain to your parents what you're doing in each class. This is huge. I ask my sons all the time, what did you do in science today? I don't know. Okay, yes, you do. Tell me, explain to me what you did in science today. That's a really good dipstick way for you to know if they are getting some of the concepts or they know what's going on in class. Or where they may be playing on their phone too much because that sometimes gets in their way, right? Write things down. Due dates are important. Help them figure out how to organize. A lot of times kids haven't had to do a lot of these skills yet because in middle school they just could do it. And so they haven't necessarily had to practice with this much going on. Some of them have it down. Don't get me wrong. Some are experts at it already and it's amazing. Some of them just have not practiced some of these skills to be successful. Avoid missing school. 10 absences equals lost credit up here. That's a big transition and big deal. Your kid kind of feels sick and so you don't know, send him to school, okay? Let the nurse call you and say, sorry, you got to come pick them up. 9 times out of 10, they're going to stay. Obviously, if there's a big illness, you need to miss medical reasons. Oh my gosh, yes, you can get a doctor's note and that is okay and that can be excused. We are definitely not trying to punish a child for having medical issues. If you need to be gone on an extended vacation, you need to clear that through the office, but do note that a lot of those absences will be counted depending on the circumstances. Get ahead of all that. Okay, talk to the principals about what that looks like for you. Planning and prioritizing it is another really hard thing. You will hear me repeat a couple of these things throughout the presentation because they're kind of the biggest things. Planning and prioritizing is hard. If I have 7 classes of homework, which is rare, but I might have 5, how do I know where to start? How do I know how long each one's going to take me? Am I getting overwhelmed by just looking at it? And so with your guidance and help, they will be way more successful at knowing, okay, when are the due dates for these? Which should we start on? Which one's easiest for you? Which one's hardest for you? How do we need to build in breaks? All these things are things to think about. I think a lot of the times we think they have been doing homework forever and they've been in school this whole time, they got it. Not necessarily do they have a good pattern or routine, okay? Advocate for your children to take the reins. Many of you have emailed or called me to change your children's schedule. While I appreciate your advocacy, I want them to ask me. okay? Yes, I respect that conversation needs to go through you, as I completely agree with my kids, but at this point I want to try to encourage them to talk to me. One, it helps me build a relationship with them, right? I don't know these 550 freshmen at all, and I want to. So the more that I get to talk to them face to face, the more that I can build that relationship and show an open and hopefully caring adult in the building that they can turn to or at least recognize at this point. Does that make sense? And I want them to, with your help or guidance, be able to speak up for themselves, right? So if maybe they're super scared to come to the office, maybe they can help with crafting the email and they sign their name. Just opening the doors of communication with adults, and especially, hopefully, like I said, having that person of contact here in the building is a big, big deal. And having them talk to their teachers as the first line of defense, that is such a huge skill that we all need to be able to help foster in them. It's easy to swoop in and be like, okay, I'll ask your teacher for you what you missed when you missed school when you were sick. No. They got to be able to go in and say, I was sick, and I know it's scary sometimes, but they got to be able to say, can you help me figure out what I needed to do? Or where do I access the information? Is that on Canvas is the new thing, checking PowerSchool, things like that. Okay, so if you could help me too with that advocacy, I would really appreciate it. You ready? Thank you. Okay, strengthening. Welcome to advocacy. Okay, so we know how easy it would be if we just took the reins. So remember when your children learned to tie their shoes. Holy cow, how long did that take to get to the car, right? You're like, we're never going to get out of here but they're trying so hard and they're messing up, but you're excited and proud of them, but at the same time you're trying to we have got to hurry, and they're fumbling and fumbling and fumbling. That's the same analogy of what's going to be going on here when they start to step outside their comfort zone and advocate for themselves. You're going to have to wait and be patient. It is easy to walk in and tie their shoes, but it's not teaching them to tie their shoes. Okay? So help me help them. Problem solving is part of winning at life, right? We want gritty kids. Mistakes are awesome. They're opportunities for growth. They're not failures. And we want them to see them as that. I have 2 sons, I keep saying this, that mess up, and then I can see the hurt drop on their faces like, oh man, I'm dumb, I can't figure this out, oh my gosh. Spin it for them. Oh my gosh, how many times did you have to practice to learn to ride a bike, play in a sport? Dance, sing, whatever the thing is, play Fortnite. How many times did you play Fortnite before you were winning every game? 1 billion, right? That's what we got to get grittier at when we are working on school and our work and mistakes. Those are growth opportunities. Practice, obviously we just talked about this. Struggle, help them get through the struggle and managing the emotion of that struggle versus rescue. What homework? And this is like I said earlier, because even if they don't say that they have homework, it is still homework. So just think about everything that you used to do as a kid, or that you wish, maybe if you look back, what you wished you would have done as a kid, as far as studying and staying on top of your work, okay? Check Canvas if your kids don't have paper notes. Check Canvas and see if there was an online assignment that they had. Have them walk you through it. Have them walk back through it, okay? That's huge. We just went to this huge conference for AVID, and they talked about old school note-taking the whole time and how touches on your notes, repetition equals retention, right? So you can't just take your notes one time and be like, I got it. Well, some kids can. But most kids need repetition in order for them to get it. And it's not memorizing your notes, right? It's like figuring out what was in my notes that was important, writing questions, analyzing, what do I need to know more about this? Do I remember what that general did in that war? And think, what are my questions? So they can go back to class and be like, can you clarify this for me? Or I need more information about this, okay? Don't get stuck. So this help children with a workaround. The hardest part that I have found parenting is when my child wants to just give up. I'm done, I'm frustrated, I'm not doing any more homework, I don't know how to get started, I don't know what to do, I'm stuck on number 4, I don't know how to get a topic sentence for my paper, and I'm now in meltdown mode, okay? So teaching them how to build in breaks. Okay, well let's go away from that for a minute. Think about when you get frustrated at work or at home. What do you do to get yourself out of that, right? Do you distract? Do you take a break? Do you go do something that's an easier task for you and come back to that more difficult thing later? So talking that through with them and letting them have a moment to just go chill or do something else is important for them to learn how to get out of that funk. Does that make sense? So be aware of it. I used to just attack it like, oh my gosh, are you seriously having a meltdown? Just do number 4. Well, hello, that's not healthy. I'm not helping him get through there. I'm just making it worse. So I've had to do a lot of self-reflection with this as well. Okay, extra help. Start with your teacher, of course. They're the master of the content area that your child is trying to master. So before or after school is awesome when needed. The teachers are here all the time. Find out their schedules and get set up with them. Ask the counselor, myself, or the office for additional resources if that does not seem to be working or enough. And then there's all kinds of ways, and we can help you with outside tutoring if you needed advice or help with that. Organizational strategies, helping students organize for each class. Every class is different, and that's what's so hard as a parent. This class wants this. This class wants this. This class runs their classroom with this certain website or this certain online textbook, and it's so much to keep up with. Hopefully now with the Canvas system, I haven't seen it myself as a parent, but what that is supposed to align most of the things through PowerSchool, old Google Classroom, Blackboard, things like that, okay? But sitting down and going through it. So just for example, this last weekend, my son, last night, by the way, at 9:30, was like, I need you to sign these 9 pieces of paper. What happened on Friday when I said, do you have anything for me to do in your notebook? Okay. So see, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, yeah. So he gets out, they're all on the same part of the notebook, all 7 things. Okay, well that makes sense for the 3rd day of school. That part of your binder is going to turn into an explosion. Every paper you ever got cannot go in the same folder. So they have to practice these skills. I know it seems like they should know how to do it, but for a while, until they get back in that routine, help them put it in the right spots. Okay? I know it sounds silly, but it would help a lot to be proactive about it now. Go over your notes. We talked about that. Some are online, and that's okay. Check Canvas. Think about how you were taught to take notes. Sometimes I had a hard time even remembering how I learned. I don't know. So I think sometimes we're expecting kids to know things that we're not 100% sure that they do. So asking them, how do you take notes? You know, do you do a T-chart? Do you, old school, make an outline like I did? Do you know how to do Cornell notes? Not that you have to ask them, just ask them to tell you what they do. So that way you're more aware, and maybe you're like, oh, well, gosh, maybe I should help them with some skills, or ask for assistance with some skills if you see that. And prioritizing, I keep saying that again, but this is so huge. All kids, okay, that's a lie. Most kids nowadays say, I'm never going to use a planner. I don't need one. Okay, that's fine, and you have, yes, this device in your hand all day long. It should work, except for if you don't use it as that kind of an organizational tool, or you don't know how, it's a big miss, okay? So that is the biggest piece I could probably give you as advice, is sit down as a family and decide, are we going to have a Google Calendar that we all share? Are we going to have an agenda that I look at? And I'm not saying you have to be this strict at all, but it's just a good way to get them to hone their own skill and take responsibility for their education. Okay? Yep, good. Okay, school involvement. We know that kids thrive when they're connected to school. Help encourage involvement. Okay? So if your child is already doing something, sports, band, choir, orchestra, theater, debate, something that's already begun, or plans to do one of those big hitter items, awesome. If they don't and they have, things that are outside of school, that's awesome too, but we want them to be connected to school. Here in a couple weeks, we will have this big offering of this year's clubs. There's a ton. So encourage them to look for this place that they fit, because if you think back to what made school special for you, it was either some sort of caring relationship with an adult or caring relationships that you had with peers, and that probably came out of a positive crowd because you were involved in some sort of a thing. Whether your math teacher connected with you and you saw that person at your volleyball game. Maybe you connected to your robotics coach and that guy became, kind of a lifelong mentor. Maybe not all of us have that big of a story, but someone made us feel special at school, and we want your child to also feel that connection to adults surrounding and community at Liberty North. I think the biggest thing I love to challenge with freshmen is, what will be your legacy here? I have some students that are going to talk to you in a minute. Came in scared, unsure, transition is hard, and to talk about how they kind of flourished and came out of their shells as they grew through high school. Communication is enormous, okay? Please avoid waiting too long to contact teachers about concerning grades. Check PowerSchool often so that you aren't surprised. If you don't know how to do any of that, stop and ask us. Always contact the teacher first. I said that. We will be there for you as well, and just be very proactive about grades. It's really hard when you say in the end of the semester, let's say, why does Johnny have a D? Oh gosh, okay, so don't get me wrong, right? So communication needs to be important on both sides of the fence, but I really want you to know all the time what your kids' grades are, okay? A+, this is just a very quick blurb if you want to take a picture of it. But pretty much the only thing that you can do right now is sign up to be involved. You can start tutoring hours on your own. That's a hard thing as a freshman though, because you have to move, you have to get a car probably and drive to a school, and that's very difficult because the schools aren't open long enough after school. One of the biggest opportunities that I can pitch is in the summer, this coming summer, if they want to help out at summer school. That's an easy way to knock them all out. But the biggest reasons kids do this is because you get almost 2 years of your community college tuition paid for, so you still pay fees and books. But in addition, some of the four-year schools in the state also will give you $500 to $1,500 just for doing it. The criteria is there. I won't go through it all now. A lot of people say, well, I'm not going to go to school in Missouri, so I'm not going to do that. But you just don't know what life has in store, and a backup plan or a savings account is a fantastic idea. It is super easy to get if you can keep those qualifications up. I highly encourage you all do it. Okay. Okay, students. This is Gavin, Megan, and Selma, and I asked them all to speak for like a minute and just kind of give you some freshman transition tips or things that they learned in their transition.
So my name is Megan Day, and I'm a senior, like she said, and I'm involved in lots of things. I'm involved in theater, Lincoln Student Ambassadors, NHS, art club, lots of things. My two tips that I have for freshmen and just for all students, one kind of piggybacks off of what she talks about calendars and staying organized. So if your student is kind of like me and has a hard time keeping up with a planner, guys, I bought a planner, I couldn't keep up with like writing down every day, or they don't like to do it on their phone, or they don't have a phone. One thing that I have used for the past 3 years is I get sticky notes or note cards, and then throughout my day, I have that in the back of my phone case or in my pocket. And when a teacher says, this is due Friday, I just write this down. Or if I'm like, oh, I gotta talk to so-and-so, I write it down. That way, if it's in your phone or like phone case, you're always like holding it. If you're like most high school kids and have their phone with them, it's right there for you to be like, oh, yes, I remember, I have to do that. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is for all the short students like me who are a little worried about navigating our big halls at Liberty North. So my sister taught me this, and I like to pass it on to other fellow short students at North. When you're walking into the halls, stand behind someone tall, like that, and they will be your barricade, and they don't even have to know that you're there. Just walk behind them, and they'll like part the scene.
I play football, I play basketball, and I run track, and I kind of helped out with student ambassadors at the beginning of the school year this year. That was new for me. It was really fun, though. But two things that I'd love to get to you and help your students out is join sports. You may not be the biggest, you may not be the fastest, and if you are biggest and the fastest, please come out. It's just fun because we have all types of levels from varsity to like a freshman team, and for all sports even, and we have all kinds of sports. So maybe hitting isn't your thing, you can go run track. You can do fast, you can do like speed, or you can do long distance. And it's just a really fun thing to do. You can meet new people, you can interact with coaches, they could be mentors or tutors to you. And the second thing I'll leave to you and your student is that join clubs. We have so many clubs to choose from. Some of them might be too hard, or some might be too much for you to keep up with, like Megan was talking about, but we have clubs that range from anything, like clubs that even involve video games. So you can do anything in clubs, and you can meet so many new people, and it's just a fun thing to do.
Hi all, my name is Selma. I'm also a senior here at Liberty North. I've been going here for the last 4 years. Things that I'm involved in are like speech and debate, Model UN. I think I'm going to be joining mock trial. Obviously, Link, we all are student ambassadors, breakfast club, just general clubs and stuff like that I like to be involved in. If I had to give myself some words of wisdom before I entered freshman year, it would probably be just to get out of my comfort zone. There are so many really, really amazing people here at Liberty North that you might not even know. You really have like the opportunity of finding friends that you will literally have for a lifetime. There are so many people that I know here that I'm like, this is such an awesome, amazing person, an amazing character that has really developed my sort of character, and you can have that same sort of impact on somebody else and not even know it. So going out of your comfort zone and just sitting with somebody that's sitting alone at lunch. And there are so many people in our senior class that are just now realizing that it's time to break out of your shell and it's time to find your way, and it's their senior year. So freshman year, be as goofy, quirky, be yourself, be whoever you want to be right here. And you can find your way. Another piece of advice that I would give you is to just, obviously, like I just said, to find your way. All of you parents have obviously crafted amazing, loving homes for your students, but I hope you guys all realize that you can all find your second home right here at Liberty North. If you like speaking, enjoying speech and debate. If you like playing sports, then we have that. If you like joining clubs, then do that. We have like so many crazy, amazing clubs that everybody is fascinated in. You can find so many people that are passionate about what you're passionate about, and you can find your way right here.
You nailed it. You nailed it. You nailed it. I also brought two teachers with me, freshman teachers. I'd like to introduce them to you now. This is Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Deaver, and I kind of asked them to pick their brains, same exact idea, but from a teacher's perspective.
So, Mr. Baldwin's a millennial. It all starts, I'm old. I figured out I was old about an hour ago when I was watching Jeopardy with my daughter, and it was College Jeopardy, and I always do fairly well in that. And one of the categories was the Disney Channel. And I thought, okay, well, I'm getting a little old now. There's no doubt on that. I thought our student speakers were wonderful, and one thing that stuck out in my mind was when we have your freshmen, who were 8th graders, come in May, a lot of these Link students get up there and say, when I was a freshman, I was afraid to get up in front of anybody. When I was a freshman, I was so terrified, I just wanted to go spend the whole day in the bathroom. And now look at them. It's amazing. It's awesome. And that's what this school did. It helped sculpt them. But they also got a little out of their comfort zone, and they took chances. And I say kudos to them for that. Please, please, please force your child to get involved. Even if they don't want to. And I really do mean that. They'll thank you in a few years, right? The last couple quick things I will say is we typically don't do test retakes. No matter what your freshman's telling you, we're probably not doing test retakes. So this first 3, 4, 5 weeks when they come home with an F on that test, oh, it's all right, I'll do the retake. No, they won't. It stays. That grade stays. And we need to kind of start breaking that habit. That's one big problem that I'm experiencing in my freshman classes over the last several years. The other thing is, if you aren't on Parent Connect, please do. And I think we still have the capacity. If my kid messes up, I can get a text saying your kid got an F on this assignment. Are we still doing that sort of thing?
I would have to check. I think an email.
Okay, so an email or something like that. So you can always stay abreast of your kids' grades, within a matter of seconds of them being posted. And that's a wonderful opportunity. That way you can reinforce at home what we're trying to say at school. And if he needs to come in or she needs to come in the next morning, we're usually here a half hour early. We can certainly take care of that low grade for them or help them with that. Okay? So that's probably the big two things. Mr. Baldwin?
Yeah, I would say also, and it was mentioned earlier, just trying as much as you can to give as much control and power to your students to be advocates for themselves. I think it is, and again, this professor did say this, it's really frustrating, I think, for teachers when our first interaction with parents is at the end of the semester, and why does my kid have B? And we haven't ever talked all semester. We want to hear from our students first. Hey, I need to get my grade up, and then after that, if the grade still isn't coming up, you know that your parent or your student is connected with us teachers. That's when we, ask that you can, go ahead and get involved in as well. And it's not that we don't want to hear from you. We absolutely do. But we also want students as they move through high school to be the ones who are out there trying to get things rectified if they absolutely need to. And then, second is freshman year is that transition year where they're going to struggle and help them along in that struggle, but also let them struggle. This is the safest time in their life for them to fail. If they fail on one thing, Okay, let's get to the next thing and let's try harder on that next thing. And if we are continuing to fail, then we need to start talking about what is it going to take to get them out of that. But freshman year in high school, it's okay to fail as long as we're taking steps to make it better as we move through. So don't let them freak out the first time that they get a bad grade. If they do, you might have a student who never gets a bad grade. You know, we've seen those as well. But if they do struggle, allow them to struggle, but come alongside it and help them in that. But don't pull them directly out of it. Let them experience that a little bit so that they can become the leaders for themselves and the advocates for themselves that we ultimately want them to be when they leave Liberty North and they go off and start making decisions on their own in college and other things like that.
That's a great point. One last thing I would say, add to that is there was a study, I can't remember, don't quote me on this, but it compared all different types of students. And when an Asian student didn't get something, on average, it took something like 4 minutes before they'd raise their hand. They'd work out every side of the problem, they'd look it through, they might talk to a neighbor, blah, blah, blah. And an American student was something like 11 seconds. And that tells you a lot right there. We're so afraid to fail. We're so afraid to take chances. We're so afraid. And let's try and break them of that so they can advocate for themselves and get the reward of obtaining the grade on their own. So,
Thank you very much to these two. I obviously work with some amazing colleagues, but also work with amazing students, and I am so excited to work with your children as well. In the respect of the time, and if some of you want to get to Parent University, which is in the PAT at 6:30, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. If you want to stick around and ask me anything, or any of the students can answer questions as well. Be careful, there's a lot of you over here, but I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate your attendance. This is fantastic. Thank you.
I'm going to go on my wild goose chase.
Good luck.
Tell me what Parent University is real quick.
Yes, so there.